Hey, what's up? It's Singano here, talking about navigating my life in my 30s. So, this channel is dedicated to different discussion topics on how I'm getting more clarity on different aspects of my life now that I'm in my 30s, and just thinking about career, life in general, and just everything in between those big areas of my life. And I really want to share what I've been learning, what I'm learning in the process, in the hopes that you learn something, I learn something, and just have that knowledge sharing throughout the process. So, for today's video, I wanted to talk about friendships. And this has been something that I've been eyeing to talk about, like toying with the idea of it, but it's been on my mind for a while, and I just wanted to really share my experience and how the idea of friendship for me and how it's showing up has evolved and changed throughout the years. And now that I'm in my 30s, it's a whole different ballgame from when I was, let's say, in high school. So yeah, I just definitely want to share what I've been learning about friendships. And yeah, it's interesting to see just how people view the idea of friendships, and would love to kind of get other people's perspective after I share mine. But to kind of give more background context and how I'm viewing this in my life right now, I'll like start off back when I was a child. So I went to a small private K through 8 school. So in that environment, I was with the same classmates for 8 years. And so it was an environment where I basically had these built-in friends for 8 years. And if we had fights, we had to overcome it because you're the same people for 8 years. And my classmates, we weren't that many in numbers. We toyed between 15 and 20 at a given time, but for the most part, that was like the max number of students in that environment. So I just remember in that time, these were the people I had. Like we had to make it work in some way. But shifting from that to high school was definitely the first major shift in friendships for me, because after leaving that K through 8 space, I went to an all girl high school where I didn't know anyone. So that was the first time where I was forced to really make friends like organically in a way, because the K through 8 situation, we were all there. It was my built-in friends, like I said, but high school was a whole nother playing field, I would say. But I think what was nice about high school in the environment that I was in an all-girls school, so the idea of not having boys in that environment led to just the more quirky side of us embracing ourselves. So I think that's where I was able to really embrace that side of me and not feel this pressure about wanting to show off to boys. And even if I wanted to, my mother in the back in the day was so strict that I would not even interact with the boys. So a whole nother story there. But yeah, high school, that was, yeah, the first time I could really own my quirkiness, but it also allowed me to see the types of people who I want to be with. And it was really based on the idea of just where we were going. Because, high school is that informative time where, in my environment, a lot of us were wanting to go to college, and what did that look like for us? And so the people who I gravitated towards, had a similar goal in mind. We wanted to go to a different university outside of our main state, go to like a different state, and have that large university experience. I wasn't trying to do another small private school. I wanted to be in a bigger environment. So yeah, so I really gravitated towards that in terms of friendships. But then the similar idea of K through 8, where we're all kind of in the same structure, we're all coming to school, we have this defined timeline of 8 to 4, whatever the timeline may be, we're all coming into school, we're doing our work, we make friends, we maybe go to dances together, maybe go to the movies together. All these things are just kind of that built-in machine where you just have that at your disposal at any time. So the idea of friends, while I had to like make friends and figure that out, it was a lot easier in that environment, and just understanding we all had these different goals in mind. How do we relate to people? How do we connect with people? Uh, and so when I shifted from that to college, that's a whole nother ball game. So, like I mentioned, I wanted to go to a big university for my higher education. So I ended up going to an institution that had over 30,000 students. And I just remember thinking, while there were some people from high school that went to my same university, the people who I was more close with did not go to the same university as me. So it also was the same similar situation where I had to really kind of make friends from scratch in a sense, and really understand like where did I want to belong in this whole situation. And thinking about college, it was really, I believe, kind of that similar idea of like built-in friends, but not really, because I think baseline, given the environment with 30,000 students, everyone wanted to like be friends with someone. I think baseline, that was kind of the intention. It's like you wanted to make connections because we're in this crazy big world of university, college, and how are we gonna make our way through these next 4 years without anyone by our side? So I think that was just a weight lifted off, I feel, of people being more approachable, being friendly, just really having that baseline understanding that we're not alone. And while we're in this together for 4 years, let's try to make friends. So, yeah, so that was very encouraging, I would say, in college. And again, it was a similar idea for me where I was trying to align with people that had similar goals. And then thinking more at that time was also similar values. So really trying to align on that as well. I think back in the day with high school and junior high school, the values weren't too important for me because I was in these private school bubbles where I just kind of assumed we all had the same type of values. But college really opened up to me more about how I wanted to align with people with similar values. And then thinking about the shift from college to getting my first big girl job and leaving my college to a whole nother state, whole nother shift with friendships. So after university, I moved to Los Angeles, and out of my core friend groups that I had in college, I was the only one who came to LA. So I found myself in a similar situation, I would say, just trying to make friends, and in a big city where it's not as the same situation where you're kind of in this environment where everyone is willing to want to be friends. You gotta like kind of search for those friends. So definitely leaned on my work friends because those were my people. They were with me from literally 9 to 6. And that's also the first time I was more involved in spaces where I was able to align with, like, let's say they had at work a group for Black employees. So I was connected to that to get to know more people, or the volunteering organization at the company. So just in that sense, trying to align with like values in that way, and just people who I could connect with. That was a way I could kind of get myself into the idea of having these built-in friendships and establishing that. So just thinking about the journey of like where I've started and how my idea of friendship has evolved. A big thing that I've been reflecting on now is just how friendships look like going forward. So I think in my 20s was a very informative time for me to really just understand the shift in which friendships show up in different ways. And I think the overall theme for me was to not take things personally and think it's like my fault or it's all about me in these situations, but just really understand the idea of friendships evolving in a different way than what I'd seen in the past. So, a couple of key things that I called out was idea number one would be priorities. So, like I mentioned, I was the one that came to Los Angeles out of my core college friends, and being in Los Angeles, trying to make these new friends as well at the same time, I was navigating the idea of friends having different priorities. So when I'm trying to make new friends in Los Angeles, or I'm trying to like maintain the friends I had in college, my priority of like, hey, like let's keep the friendship, like the main goal or the main topic for us, where other people may prioritize, I gotta do a career thing, I'm like really set on my career, so I can't really show up as much. That was something where I just didn't have the awareness to like realize like that shift at the time, but just understand how important that is in the future, and now how I think about it now too, and not take that personally. And to piggyback off of that, the second thing with that would be expectations. So, you know, in these bubbles that I had in college where I could see anyone at any time, call anyone at any time, because what are you doing? You're in this class, but outside of that, like, what are you really doing? that was basically the overall environment at my university. That shifted obviously when we're all in the working world. We all have our jobs. We all are starting to get more involved in different things. In general, life is happening. Family dynamics are changing. It's more apparent now, and so I'm expecting we're talking on the phone at least like 5 times a week. That's not the same expectation another friend could have as well. So just really understanding that point of view as well has been something that I have taken now in thinking about my friendships in the present, and if I'm going to be making friends in the future, just expectations that we have and not being disappointed or taking it personally when it's not how I wanted it to look, because we are all trying to do our life thing. And I'm talking to y'all, this channel's about doing the life thing. So we all have different expectations and how we're going to show up for our friends, and it's not one bad way or another. Obviously it's different if you guys just have like a falling out because something specific, whatever, that's like a whole nother situation. But yeah, expectations I think is very very important for me right now. And then the last one to really tie it all together would be the idea of boundaries. And I think this one came to light more in Los Angeles because, again, like I mentioned, I was in the space trying to make new friends, and I think I overstretched myself and how I was still in that mentality of high school, or excuse me, college, where I just always wanted to be around friends and like really maybe got the way to do all these different things, like go out X amount of times a day or like meet up after work. And at a certain point, all of that is great, but I wasn't taking care of myself in that process. So, and I'm getting like tired, perpetually tired, not prioritizing like my own important values at home, and things that I want to be able to improve for myself. So in that sense, it was okay, I can't be always driving an hour after work to go to this happy hour or to hang out with someone because I feel like I'm not gonna be thought about and like forgotten about. But it's established, and then people expecting me to like always show up in that way. So yeah, I had to like shift that for myself and just like have more boundaries on how I showed up with my time. And again, different people have expectations and how that looks like for them. And so with that, I just learned it's going to be another key piece for me with my friendships. And it's not a bad thing, again, in understanding the boundaries that you set in place so that you can have the meaningful friendships that you want and still be able to thrive together and progress together, given all the things that are happening in life, in the world, and just how we navigate that. But yeah, so just some insights I wanted to share on friendships now that I think about my 30s and just how I've shifted from this bubble world, and now that I'm not in that bubble, people are having their own lives. How do you show up? Thinking about how you show up, but not taking it personally when it's not how you want it to look like. This has been just my journey right now in my 30s. You know, I'm just a lot more understanding, given the fact we all have our own path and we all are dealing with our own things, and it's not on one person that's supposed to be doing one way or another. And it just, yeah, things shift and it's not the end of the world. That's what I'm learning, because I felt for me at a time it was the end of the world. That, you know, I don't have the same type of dynamic where I could just show up or call, because that's how it was in college, and it's not going to be like the same in my environment now, and that's okay. But yes, I'd love to hear about friendships for you, what that looks like now if you're in your 30s, even if you're 20s. I'm interested to know. But yeah, that's all I have for now. And leave something in the comments. Love to hear.